Hey everyone, it's Primer. Today I wanted to talk about more base identification relating to Sui Lalo. So, we're going to try to combine the different techniques we've learned over the course of the series to try to apply it on this space. The very first thing we want to look for is this Lalo funnel. And again, we're going to try to pay attention to the dead zones of the base, where we do not want our funnel shape to go through the dead zones, but rather we want to have our dead zones kind of help our Lalo stay into the funnel shape, right? They should help our funnel shape, not hinder it. We also want to take into consideration the shape of the base in general, so we can draw the dead zones out here. We can maybe identify them as here, here, and here. All right, so you don't want to allow into these areas. We also want to consider the direction of the sweepers, which is down here and up here. We want to avoid lallowing to them, which means that if we take into consideration possible funnel plans or possible Lalo funnel shaped plans, we could try to lag Lalo here, right? The dead zones help that. We could clear this area, but the sweeper is annoying, so let's not do that. We could also try to allow into Town Hall, but again, I've been finding that allow into Town Hall has been pretty bad due to the Town Hall poison. So it seems like the only decent Lalo entry is actually something like this, through this area, because it avoids the sweepers and the dead zones are helpful. Now in terms of what we must clear around it, we probably must clear the scatter, because the scatter is not going to be taken up by the Lalo, and the scatter could be potentially damaging the loons due to its range. So the scatter compartment needs to be taken out, and probably this scatter compartment out for pathing as well. So if these two scatter compartments are taken out, then the Lalo pathing looks pretty good. Okay, great. So that's all we're going to think about in terms of our Lalo funnel shape. And what we'll do is we'll kind of put this thought aside, we'll come back to it later, and then we'll move on to Sui identification, right? Where can we Sui get good value, maybe get good pathing, and so on. A key concept with the Sui that we talked about in my Sui funneling guide is diminishing returns. Yes, you can go with heavier Suis with an Ice Golem and Golem to try to get more value. However, the more value or more investment you add, the less additional return you get. That's diminishing returns. And so conversely, sometimes you can use a really small Sui to take out a really small section of the base, but that small section is super important, like a scatter or a town hall. So that's kind of the theme we're looking at. Can we go with very minimalist Suis to go for small but important value? And so let's take a look at some possible entries, right? We want to look for entries that are also with our Sui without too much DPS, right? We probably wouldn't want a Sui where the CC is right here, because the CC gives a lot of damage, right? It stalls up the Sui, it's no good. We also want to find places which it's easy to funnel the Sui in. We want to find places where it gets good value, and it's not tough to get the Sui inside where you want it. So that, of course, means that 2 o'clock is a terrible idea, and we'll look at some other possibilities. We could try to Sui into the scatter. In this case, the only issue is we need a double wall break, because we have this air defense. We need it down to get the wall break into maybe the Grand Warden or the Expo. And so in this case, maybe we can Sui this. The funnel is a little annoying, though. If we're trying to Sui this Queen to take out the scatter is pretty deep, and we have this dead zone, so we're going to have to invest a lot, so maybe that's not a great idea. We could try to double wall break and get the king itself to take a scatter compartment. That's always something you can consider, because the king is easier to funnel, it doesn't have a range, so the walls will actually help the funneling, and the king is tanky enough so that if you pop the ability, it can get through this compartment pretty easily. So a king Sui could be possible here, but we'll come back to this. What else can we do? A Town Hall Sui seems also pretty likely, because it's easy to funnel, it's easy to get the wall break in. But let's talk about this. So we can send the king and queen for Town Hall, right? We can get it down. That's great. So that's really good value, because a Town Hall is a very annoying building at Town Hall 14. However, do we need to send both the king and queen there? Because the king might be able to take out the Town Hall by itself. And so there are some cases that even though the king can take out the town by itself, you still send the queen. But you want to ask yourself, what additional value can the queen get you? Well, you can Sui the town hall. That's going to clear these buildings. What else is the queen going to take out? Like, the air defense might go and the king might not. But really, you really want to send a whole queen for an air defense, maybe even expo, maybe even not if she doesn't path there. It's not really worth it. So a king sui to the town hall is great. What else can we do? We can also try to sui into the scatter compartment. Again, we could try to use both heroes to take out the scatter compartment. However, once the sui takes out the scatter, it's not going to get much more value because of the CC. The CC is going to come out and it's going to engage, and actually there isn't much value to be taken out of it anyways. So although we could send a full sui to the scatter, is there any way we can cheapen it up so we only get the value we want to, which is really the scatter? Well, a king is a little bit risky because with the nature of how the king paths, it might pull the CC. But with this type of thing, you can actually send the naked queen in, which can take out the scatter, and because of its range, it's going to stay out of most of its DPS. It's not going to pull the CC, and you can take out the scatter pretty easily. So you can sui the queen for the scatter, and you can even sui the king for the town hall. Note that you could also even super gob the town hall, right? The idea we talked about in our previous video. If you clear this building, this building, this building, wall break, and get the super gobs to the town hall with an invis. You can do that. However, because super gobs are actually still pretty expensive, it's not always the best value. You should only super gob if you have a great sui somewhere else, and you have a great Lalo plan, except the only issue is that the town hall is not going down, and you want to maybe use your warden somewhere else. Only in that case would you use a super gob to town hall. But in this case, a king sui to town hall, as we discussed, looks pretty good, and that works really well because now you have the queen left, and we talked about how the queen can take out the scatter. So already with just the king and queen, we can take out both of these compartments, and that's awesome. That's great value, and we won't need the super gobs. Well, what else do we need to do? We talked about with our Lalo plan that if we take out this stuff, we want to form this Lalo shape, we need to take out this compartment. So we have the RC and our siege machine left. Is it good value to use the RC at 6 o'clock? Let's think about it. We have Grand Warden, possibly Tesla here. Expo, RC, scatter. No, it's not, because there's too much DPS, especially the enemy RC, which will be quite annoying, and even with the even with your own headhunter, it's going to stall the RC long enough, so it's going to go down quickly. You may need like 2 invis, you may need a skelly spell. It's a lot of investments. Is there anything that's cheaper? And again, the answer is yes. The Yeti Bomb is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated tools, or one of the most underrated stages of attack, because it can clear out a whole compartment of the base with just a siege machine and a rage. It's great. And the perfect place for a Yeti Bomb is where there's high concentration of DPS, where you have lots of buildings close to each other in the same compartment. There isn't too much splash, like a scatter, around it. So in this case, if you can drop a Yeti Bomb straight into this compartment, straight into the center, both with the blimp drop damage, the Yetis can take out each of these defenses and the RC really quickly, and you get that whole compartment down. And so that's something you should always look for, Yeti Bomb value. For example, you could also Yeti Bomb here, although it's not as good value because you pretty much only have the scatter and maybe the expo as prime targets for the Yetis, right, which are just high DPS, high HP, close to the other buildings. Where in this case, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect for a Yeti Bomb. Like, Town Hall with a Yeti Bomb is still an option. I sometimes do that if it works well for the plan, but it generally does get less value because of the poison bomb. Okay, so we can Yeti Bomb here. We can send the king for Town Hall, and we can send the queen for scatter. That's looking very, very good. And of course, we have our Lalo plan, as we discussed, looking like this. So we can probably send a Lalo through the single as well, if we want to do that. But where do we use the RC? We can either use the RC with the Lalo, maybe as a secondary group, or we can use the RC as its own sui somewhere else, maybe before the Lalo starts. And for the first option, Lalo with this RC with the Lalo, the issue is the CC. The CC ground CC like a hound will be lured, and we generally don't want to just swag the RC. The RC is not going to get too much value if the whole time it's just beating on the CC. Therefore, we'd probably want to avoid using the RC near the CC. Great. So, honestly speaking, our king, queen, and blimp has already taken out like half the base already. So the only other spot I'm thinking of that the RC cannot really be annoyed with the CC is the 7 o'clock area. Of course, if we just send it there, it's not going to get the single. It's going to die pretty quickly. It's going to get like these 4 buildings, which isn't great. And it might be even worse because the Hound now cannot lock onto the air defense. So is there any way we can use the RC more effectively? So one cool thing you might note, there's a little bit of a weakness in the space. You've got a sweeper, a single, and 2 builder huts all in zap radius. You can zap all of these with 2 zaps. Well, the single won't go down, but you'll damage the single enough. And because an RC trick takes two zaps in a quake, it's perfect here. We can actually RC trick the single because I'd rather get more value out of the RC than just get barely anything and take out the air defense, which is bad. But if I can take out all this value of the RC, then it'll be worth it because now you have even less to Lalo. It does not mess up your Lalo funnel shape. It just means that Lalo actually needs to get less, and so on. And now we want to consider, are Yeti bombs actually going to leave a few buildings behind? It's going to take out this stuff. Your king will take out this stuff. And we cannot assume the king takes out the air defense. It could, but remember, we want to be conservative with our estimates. And let's just be conservative here as well and say the queen only takes out these 3 buildings. With that much left, we still have a bunch of defenses like here, 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 here that we need to take out. And so instead of sending an RC trick directly to the single, what I thought was, okay, in this case, since there is no DPS here, the RC is not going to take any damage. I can drop it at 6 o'clock, have it take out the air defense, walk to the left, and then do the RC trick onto this area and take out this whole area out. And now, let's consider how much value is left. We take out this stuff, all with our Sui. And that's how you see people get massive amounts of Suis. It's not because you're sending 50 ice golems with your Sui. It's because you're maximizing the effectiveness of your Sui. By suing for very special areas like, okay, I'm going to get this little value, but great value, and you do that many times, right? It's the opposite of diminishing returns because you're investing small amounts of Sui to get different important parts. You can take out a lot of important parts of the base left. Now you can see there's barely any base left to Lalo. You just Lalo into the 2 multis, which is fine because you can just tome through everything. You have the headhunters for the queen. And this should be crushed if things work well. Now, of course, there are quite a few moving parts, right? There are lots of things that need to go right for this to work. And so there is some risk. And there's always inherent risk in doing these multi-phase attacks. So one thing for me is I'm really confident with how much value I can get with my Sui. So therefore, I can take more risks than maybe someone who's less experienced. Second, I'm also bringing in Invis. I'm not planning to use the Invis, but the idea is if something is falling short, if I'm not getting enough value out of some part of the attack, I can use the Invis as a sort of a flex spell. You can use it whatever. So in this case, I'm using the Ice Golem and King. King is going for Town Hall. The Skellies almost pulled the King away, but I'm fine. The Yeti at 9 o'clock to funnel this stuff and also clear some of these buildings. So now the King can head in for the Town Hall. Now I'm dropping a Loon to take out the cannon, which allows a Yeti bomb to come in. Again, the Yeti bomb was actually a little too high. You generally want to drop a Yeti bomb directly onto the enemy hero, so it takes it out first, instead of having the enemy hero beat down on Yetis for too long. The King barely takes it at Town Hall. I was thinking of having invested in this, but I barely did not need to. Now you see the RC is taking 0, well, not 0, but close to 0 TPS, and it's heading in. I've already dropped the zap to take out everything, and now the RC trick is perfect, using 2 loons to take out the cannon. Actually, I don't even think I needed to, because the RC would path correctly anyways. Now you see the queen. I waited for the queen to take out the arch tower, so that I can get the wall break to directly target the scatter. Otherwise, I would need 2 wall breaks. But if I can make the queen take out this building first, then the next closed compartment is here. So I save a wall break. Now actually my queen is a little scary. I have to drop an invis to keep the queen alive to take out a scatter. Bit of a miscalculation from my part, but it's fine. Lalo comes in, a haste spell to try to cover as many defenses as possible. And ooh, this tome is very annoying. The loons were like half a tile away from tome. But it doesn't matter. This is still a crush. There is barely any base left. So I didn't really need much of a Lalo, to be honest, because there really wasn't much to Lalo. I'm going to swag a haste here. I've got 3 loons left I can drop here for cleanup. Always save a few loons, whether for back end or even for cleanup in this case. So it works out well. And the hound pops, but it doesn't matter. We swag a haste, and this is a triple. So there we have it. Base identification for Sui Lalo. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.